Hello, everybody, and welcome to this first live chat here at GoMore. We are sitting in this sofa because many great ideas and discussions and themes have been addressed here over the past years. So we couldn't think of any better setting for this session than to be sitting in this very nice white sofa. Today we are actually celebrating the 2-year anniversary of the Finnish GoMore. So it's perfect timing actually that scaling GoMore is actually what we will be talking about today. And to do that, I have brought with me my dear colleague and partner in crime on a daily basis, Thomas. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you.
The reason for you joining here is besides your good looks, it's of course also because you you are the one who plan and execute the scaling of GoMore. So the perfect company for this chat. I have also brought some licorice, Thomas, for you.
Nice of you.
I know that that you are a sucker for good
I'm
licorice.
a big fan.
Yes, so help yourself.
Thanks.
Also to you guys watching out there, at the end of this session, you will know also what role licorice play in scaling GoMore. So on that cliffhanger, let's go into the interesting stuff, Thomas.
Yes.
So Thomas, a quick status. We've got a bit more than 3 million members across Europe using our platform to share cars. We are, of course, in Denmark, we are in Spain, we are in Sweden, Finland, Switzerland, and Austria. Meaning that we've grown quite significantly over the past years. And you can grow in different ways. You can grow by acquisition, you can grow organically, different ways. And we have some learnings on every aspect of that actually, right?
Yeah. So as you just said, we actually tried, you can say the M&A version of it, which also sometimes called brownfield, and then also greenfield, where we have gone in just from scratch. But if we start on the first one, then actually, as you mentioned, we started out here in Denmark, and then in 2014 we acquired a ride-sharing platform in Spain, which was called A Moment, and actually we're still called A Moment in Spain. And what we did then was we added on the peer2peer car rental solution that we have, which is our core product today, also in Denmark. And then later on also our leasing solution where you can lease a car and then rent it out when you're not using it. But it's been a really interesting journey in Spain. So we had to pivot quite a lot to understand what is really working. But then since 2020, that's where we made a big strategic focus on the peer2peer car sharing, and then since then it has really started taking off. So this ended up being very successful, but there's definitely been some challenges along the way, which I think also partly is related to it being a brownfield investment.
Yeah. And what about greenfield then?
Yeah, so greenfield we have done in Sweden, so in 2019. That was the first time we successfully entered a new market. But we actually also did it back in 2015 when we entered Norway and France. But that actually did not work out as planned.
Why not?
Yeah, so I think there were several reasons as always. But the first one was, like now looking back with the clarity of hindsight, that it was not the right markets for us. So in both France and Norway, there was already existing players doing what we're doing at scale. And in a platform business like ours, the network effect is very strong. And that means that, for instance, if you want to rent out your car, you like to go where a lot of people are renting cars, because that increases your chance of getting bookings. And also if you're looking for a car, you want to go where there's a big variety of cars and where there's some nearby you. So that's why it's really hard actually to grow in a market where another has taken the field. So that's why we now like to go into new markets and more development from scratch. So that was definitely a very important part of choosing the right market.
Yeah.
Then the second factor was related to, as I just talked about, we have 3 solutions, which can be quite a lot and when we first started launching, we went in with all 3 solutions at once. Now we have changed so that we go in with the P2P car sharing model, and then we add on the leasing later. So I think the learning was that it was too complex what we were communicating for in a completely new market. So there's a new brand and they do 3 different things. That's quite a lot to comprehend. And then I think there's definitely also a big aspect on the people part, which should definitely not be on the estimated, where we changed the model. So for instance, for France, we hired a local team sitting in Paris, just like go do what we have done in Denmark, kind of. Where now,
how big was that team?
Around 5-6 people. We're now our model since Sweden, which started out with Clara, who's still the head of Sweden. She worked out of Copenhagen and really got our ways of working on the skin. And then when we have grown, she went back to Stockholm and built a team there. But it just worked so much better that she understood our culture, our ways of working, and could also teach that to the team. So everything felt much more integrated. And then that's the model we've been using since. So actually once a year opening up a new market using that model, and also been successful 4 times so far.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you can't really underestimate the human factor or the cultural factor for that matter enough. Also at a certain size of a company, when a company becomes a certain size, this headquarter versus local tends to become an issue, right? Can you elaborate a bit on how we've addressed that in GoMore? Maybe via this new way of scaling.
Yes, I think you're completely right. I mean, both of us we worked in larger companies and have seen this play out in real life. So I really think that bringing people when they come to the same city and just sitting across from each other makes a huge difference, because suddenly in the local office, they will understand much more what is the responsibilities, what's going on in central, and what's their constraints. And the same, for the central teams. So I really think that's the number one way we found to mitigate it. So I think you can never completely get away from it.
No.
But you can mitigate it by building good relationships across the company.
Yes. What about the size of the team?
Yeah, so that's definitely also something we changed quite a lot. So now,
you said in France it was 5 persons.
That's five people getting started, and right now we hire one to spearhead the lead, and then the idea that person becomes the leader of the team afterwards. So it has to be the right candidate that can both very operationally do the things that's required in the beginning, but has the potential to be a leader of. And I think, for instance, Sweden, we are 9 people. So it can change quite rapidly.
So a very important task to get the right person from the beginning.
Exactly, that's really critical, I would say, for success in a market.
Yeah, but once you get that right person in the seat, what about the resources sitting in headquarters allocated to that specific market? So commercial, communications, operations.
So we have central functions now built to support, so they're not allocated as such actually to the market, right? But they're supporting, helping out what's the right pricing, what should be the marketing, and also execute, for instance, the paid marketing campaigns. So that definitely makes a big change, because suddenly you don't have to hire such a big team. It's more you set up the operations and then you start scaling that when it works. But that means also we can be quite adaptable. So if you have good traction, you can faster scale up. If things go a little bit slower, you don't have a big team sitting that might be idle for some time. And it also means we can fuel enough money into marketing, which we have also learned is critical in a network business like ours. Again, you need to have a lot of cars to be relevant for renters, and you need to have a lot of renters to keep your car owners.
Exactly.
So you have to get the snowball rolling fast.
And
that requires some upfront investment in marketing. If you spend too much on salaries, you might not, unless you have infinite amounts. Especially also during these times, few people have. You have to be very clear on what's needed at what time.
Yes. Okay. You talked about getting the right person in from the beginning. I think on that note, we should welcome Paul to the sofa, because Paul is actually the right person for starting up GoMore in Austria. Hi, Paul.
Hi, guys.
Welcome. Paul, you just recently actually came to Denmark and recently started up GoMore in Austria back in spring. Thomas has talked a lot about in this sofa that it's a really good way to go about it, to have a very slim team. You can also translate that into being a one-man army at the beginning, right?
A lot of responsibilities, I like to call it.
Yes, that's also a good way to frame it. Thomas is a very good salesman, as we know. But Paul, having you here in Denmark is a pleasure, obviously. But what's your perspective on starting GoMore Austria as a one-man army?
I mean, Thomas is really a good salesman. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the experience for me, it was very exciting, but it's also a great responsibility because you are in charge. It's a one-man army. You're in charge of the market, basically.
Yeah.
And it was for me like a jump into the cold water, quite literally. And yeah, it was a great experience. I got great support from the central functions. Yeah, it was a great experience so far.
Yeah. So great experience so far, but there must be something that was not good. I mean, what's the pitfalls?
Yeah, of course, like there are plenty of pitfalls, like, you know, that's just part of the daily business. So let's start with the most country-wise relevant ones. It's like the language. So it's like all the other guys in the office, they speak English. So we had to make the transition in all the different layers of the product.
Yes.
And also like insurance-wise. And first you think the product is not that complex, but you really realize the complexity of the product when the first problems and cases come in. And then you see, then I was like constantly writing like tickets for the product team, for other areas, just to get all the things fixed. And we are still writing tickets to this day, every day. So yeah, it's always tricky to launch a new market, but so far.
Yeah, because I also think, just to add on what Paul was saying, that also part of what we like to do is we actually quite fast from we get, for instance, Paul on board. I think when 2 months from you joining here in Copenhagen until we were live, you know, and bringing on customers, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
So it means like not everything is ready, but our experience is that you can fine tune for a lot of time.
Yeah.
But you didn't lose maybe 6 months of valuable time in the market to understand real customers. And then it's actually first then you really find out what is working and not right.
But to be honest, the 2 months they were quite stressful. So I arrived on the 1st of February and at the end of March we already launched. But yeah, turned out good so far.
Yeah. So a steep learning curve. You need to do that.
So
yes. Okay. What about the cultural part? How has it been to be part of GoMore so far?
I mean, the cultural part, it already began with my first day in the office, and you come into the HQ here in Copenhagen, and it feels very cozy, hyggelig, and everyone is super friendly, and that also reflects in how GoMore is set up: flat hierarchy, humble leadership, and also just great people. So it's really nice culture here. And after 3 weeks in, we already had Feste Laune, which is like in Germany or Austria, we call it Fasching. And yeah, then I realized people at GoMore, they can work hard, but they can also enjoy themselves afterwards. And that's also something I'd like to take with me to Austria. So the combination of this effortlessness but also being focused while working. I really like that one, and that will help us along the way also the next coming years. Yeah.
What about the other market leads? Do you have special relationships with them?
Yeah, of course, they're my peers, and especially to the Swiss market, Burjo. She, especially in the beginning, she helped me a lot. So,
you even bought her cup for the meeting.
I even picked her cup, and so it's always nice to talk to them because they are in the same situation and they know the same problems. So it's always good to have some feedback loops with them. So
If we were to launch in another market at some point in time, what would be your best advice for a potential market lead sitting out there?
I would say never stop asking questions. I mean, I'm known that I'm pain that I always ask too many questions, but yeah, I think that's the thing we have to do. And yeah,
I think it's definitely true because we just take so much for given. And actually, when you ask the questions, for instance, I think you're great at it, then you also reflect it once at a time again, and then you find an even better way of doing it.
True, and you also get a new perspective. And from my very personal point of view, it's also kind of the best risk hedge you can do, because when you talk a lot to each other, then you always get like new sparks, and then you kind of know about the problem before it even erupts at the later point, which will be then very operational heavy. So never.
And also, I think as the markets keep developing and evolving, you can learn a lot from Spain or from Switzerland or from some of the other markets. But I think we've also seen that they can learn something from you. I mean, it goes both ways, right? So I think this network kind of that you have is very very valuable.
Yeah, I totally agree. So it's always nice to get new insights, and also when other markets are kind of 2 years into the process, they kind of already start. There will be the first blind spots where they don't take a look at, and when you're new, you always remind them, hey, guys, we talked about that 1 year ago, but then it was forgotten. Now I face the problem as well, so let's pick it up and solve it. So it's a great setup to have this sub-central hubs.
Yes. Yeah. So a quick status. You've been here, Paul, since February. We launched in April. What's the status? I mean, are things going? Are things going well in terms of? At some point, I'm thinking to you, Thomas. At some point, we have to let go of Paul and send him back to Austria, obviously to Vienna. But what's the status? Is he ready for that, or is Austria ready for that?
Yeah. So there are actually several elements here. So one thing is the business. So the business needs to be at a certain size where we actually start building a larger team, because of course, you can also say one of the potential pitfalls of this process is that we cannot build a big Austrian team here in Copenhagen. We build a small one and then it has to go back to scale. And I think Austria is really progressing in the right way.
Yes.
And that's been really, really great to see. But then there's also the cultural aspect. Because you really need to have understood our culture to bring it forward. So therefore, Paul and I actually typically test his Danishness once a month with a small licorice test. And I think we forgot to do it actually this November. So maybe it's about time, and then we can assess where we are on the culture.
That's a hard one.
Yes.
Yeah, we step up every month. What do you think?
I think that is the phase of 4 months more or something.
6.
6. Okay, 6 months. Yeah. Would you agree, Paul? 6 months. You've got 6 months left.
I would also hang to the 6 months.
Great. And that was the licorice part of the scaling process of GoMore. Great. I'm just looking at my phone here because you guys are welcome, of course, to post questions. None have come so far, but you still have some time. I think we could just sum up a bit what we've been talking about so far. So 3 important lessons in terms of scaling GoMore. Obviously, choose the right market. Makes sense. But also, when you've done that, also make sure that you know the dynamics and all of that. Launch fast.
Yeah, I think maybe if there's any way, a little bit of time, just choosing the right market, because that's of course super difficult. But I think it's really important is also to understand what are the right KPIs you're looking at.
Yes.
A lot of people maybe just look at market size or growth of the market and some of those metrics. But for instance, in our type of business, which is a platform business, we actually would start with the competitive situation in the market, to understand what is the role we can build for us. And then the other things are also interesting, but they're far less determining than the competitive part. And that might be very different from company to company. So I think that's just also really important that you understand what metric are you looking at, because otherwise you can also just keep researching forever. So you need to know what you're looking for, and then when you have decided, you go in, and then I would say really get going.
Yes.
Even though I know that it's not easy, and it's easy for me to say, but I still think over time it's more valuable. Like you also lose a lot of time looking at it. Maybe some other people will have entered while you're looking.
Yeah. Another thing would be integrate the team very quickly, or the team, the person, the right person, integrate him or her in the entire organization, the full team, as quickly as possible, right? From day one. Feel part of the family.
Now we are already a small team in Austria.
Yeah.
But I also would point out again the cultural part, because that's something that will keep us growing in the next years to come. And also I think it's quite important for talent retention, because when they feel connected to the company and there's a good culture, people also tend to stay longer and have a personal connection to the company, which will ultimately result in better contact with the customers or the users. So culture is always quite an essential point as well.
Yes.
Stay true to it.
Yeah, sure. And then it's all about keeping the snowball rolling, basically. So the right strategy to do that.
Yeah, exactly, and keep refining it.
Yes, exactly.
As well, so I think also when we talked about the session, right, we also talked about that what can you learn from, for instance, from Austria. Now we've actually done it 4 times.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite interesting that we keep learning.
Yeah.
So for instance, when Austria is the first market where we didn't go big on, for instance, TV, which we had done in the other markets in the beginning to get the snowball rolling, but here we were more focused on other marketing channels and I think being a bit more creative in the way we use the concept.
Yes.
And that has been great, and that's something that we can use when we're going to launch the next market, even though we've done it a couple of times now. It's just nice to keep learning.
Yes.
Never stop learning.
Yeah, exactly. And we never stop eating licorice either, right?
That's also true.
Right, Paul?
Gotta say that it is.
Yeah. Great. Well, it has been a pleasure, guys. Time is almost up. I can see that no question has occurred, but sometimes questions occur after the event. So in that case, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or good ideas or comments. We are here to share all our experiences and thoughts and perspectives. So until next time, remember to share more things and have a good afternoon. Bye.
Bye, guys.